Welcome to Straight from the Muzzle, folks, where we are anything but straight. My name is Space,
And I'm Bean.
and we welcome you to our episode, which is about what today?
Being gay.
Essentially, yeah. As if we're not gay as it is.
God. Oh, man. So Pride Month has come and gone, and usually every year we release an episode or two revolving around Pride Month, but there's been so much going on that today is the day we're recording one. It's going to be released in July.
So
But that's okay. We could be fashionably late.
I think that would work. I think that should work just fine. But like you said, like so much has happened that everything has kind of like been put on hold or pushed back. So we're kind of just following that trend and just saying, oh well. So today's like we actually have two major topics that kind of intertwine together as one. We'll be talking about the history of Pride, and then we'll also be talking about the Black Lives Matter movement,
Mhm.
and we'll talk about how those two actually are pretty much like one. So I guess you could say we are talking about one topic specifically, but you could also split it into two if you wanted to. It just depends on how you perceive it.
Yes.
So, Bean here knows so much about the history of Pride, so I'm going to let her take it away.
I wouldn't say I know a bunch, but I know enough to get by. Every Pride year, every time we release one of these episodes, we have a brief introduction on what the history of Pride is, and we have a brief statement. And I got this from David Oliver and Rasha Ali. They wrote this in an article. They say, the Stonewall Riots, an incident that became a rallying cry for the nascent gay rights movement, where demonstrations that followed a police raid on the Stonewall Inn, which is a gay bar in New York's Greenwich Village, and it happened on June 28th of 1969.
Oh my God.
So that is a brief mini definition on what the Stonewall Riots, is.
I wasn't laughing at the incident, but I was laughing at the very last set of numbers in the year, 69.
Shut up, boy! I didn't even notice. Oh my God.
I know you've like talked about this like year after year, but this is like the first time I noticed it.
My God. Oh God. So essentially, in the 1960s, bars that catered towards gay people could not legally have a liquor license, even if the bartenders working there had liquor licenses elsewhere. As soon as you step foot in a gay bar, they suddenly become invalid. And so they used this law as an excuse to sneak, police officers into these gay bars, these safe spaces, to start arresting gay people. One, because of the liquor license law, and two, because it was technically illegal to be gay or to cross-dress during that time. So they basically, no matter how secretive they kept these bars, if a police were hinted towards any of it, they could go in there and just start, harassing and arresting and just, following suit with police brutality on gay people and just LGBT people in their spaces. So that raid that happened on June 28th in the Stonewall Inn is what sparked the Stonewall riots in New York.
And it's what pretty much started, well, we'll talk about how the Pride Month started a little bit later, but it's pretty much the beginning and not the end of Pride.
Mm-hmm. And while we're on the topic of just educating on the history of Pride, we always say LGBTQ community. Of course, there's a plus behind that naturally. But over the years with, more scientific studies coming out and with more people becoming comfortable with their bodies and with their gender and sexuality, more identities have started to surface. And we wanted to cover just a quick section on that as well, now that the LGBTQ does have a plus behind it. Why don't you go through that one, Space?
Sure. I actually just pulled the article back up, so I have all the different ones. Do you want me to go over the plus or just over the LGBT parts?
Go ahead and go over both.
Okay. So it's not just a fun little acronym to say. So L stands for lesbian, which is a gay woman, basically. Yeah, it's a bean. Um, the G stands for gay, so me. You could probably say a lesbian man. That would be the way
Oh
to say
my
that if you
god.
wanted to. B stands for bisexual, so you're into both. T stands for transsexual, so
Or
that usually
transgendered.
refers transgender, transitioning. We have Q, which is queer or questioning, and kind of explain that one real quick.
So queer is seen as an umbrella term. The gay community has brought back that term and kind of gave it new life. It used to be considered a slur a long time ago, but gay people reclaimed it. So queer is an umbrella term for anybody under the LGBTQ community. Some people don't feel comfortable labeling themselves as like lesbian or gay or bisexual, or so they just use queer as an umbrella term. And then questioning is people who might also just not have a label yet, but they know that they're not 100% straight. So those can go hand in hand.
Um, A stands for asexual. There's another one that says allied. I don't know what allied is.
That one's a little controversial because I wouldn't consider allies a part of the LGBT community because allies are straight people who support gay people, which just should be the norm. But a lot of people still keep it under there because, I mean, whatever. It's not a huge deal. But asexual is asexual, and allied means a straight person who supports the gay community.
We had when I was in high school, we had a club called the Gay Straight Alliance,
Mm-hmm.
which I never really understood because I was just like, what's the point of this club? I never really explained anything. But I mean, even to this day, I'm just like, you really couldn't pick like a better name? Like, come on.
Yeah, the GSA. I guess. I mean, a lot of colleges use GSA help um to help queer students and those who want to help queer students. You know, inform their community that their college on gay issues or to help organize protests or things like that. But a lot of the times GSA has become so unorganized and so chaotic that it just becomes a hangout for a bunch of gay people. So it really depends on the group, but they have their heart in the right place.
Um, okay, so we didn't actually go over what asexual was. I'll go over that real quick. Um, Asexual can be someone who experiences little to no sexual attraction to another person, but it is not to be confused with. It's going to sound like I'm saying aromatic. I am not saying
It's
aromatic.
aromantic.
Thank you. Aromantic, and aromantic people are people who experience little to no romantic attraction.
Mm-hmm.
So don't don't put those two in the same group because they're not. Although it can look like that, looks can be deceiving. We all know this. And then the last one that has been kind of tied into the LGBTQ, we have now the A and the I, and I is intersex. Intersex happens when, like, okay, you can't just say that you are intersex. I think people can try that, but I feel that the only way you can classify yourself as intersex is if your DNA proves it. So, for instance, my DNA says that I am XXY. I am both, baby, so I am intersex.
Intersex is a physical condition kind of thing, but because it can go hand in hand with gender identity and the confusion behind it, a lot of folks who are intersex find a place in the LGBT community, and that has been a new topic recently. Whether intersex is or isn't a part of the LGBT community, that's up to the individual. In my opinion, I think they're welcome just fine. Like I can see how being born with different chromosomes or different, there's a lot of different ways to be intersex, but being born with something that's considered quote unquote abnormal or having to be forced to be raised through one gender or another, even though your body doesn't feel like one or the other, I can see how that can definitely play into the same struggles a lot of people have with gender in the LGBT community.
So, like for me, I identify as intersex, but I also identify as gay. So they kind of go, for me, it's just a choice that I've made. Some people may say, well, gay is not a choice. Well, fuck you. So get over it. I
Odd.
just, it is.
I mean, everybody's different. Everybody can identify and be how they want. That's how I be on that subject.
And then we have the plus symbol at the end, and the plus symbol can represent multiple things. It's just because the acronym is so long as it is. I swear to God, if they extend it to more, I'm just gonna flip a switch. But the plus does stand for a few other things like pansexual, demisexual, gray sexual, cisgender. We have gender non
Cisgender isn't in the LGBT community, I don't think. Is it? I don't know.
gender identity matches the sex they were assigned with at birth.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well,
That
you could
one
be
is
cis and gay though, so yeah, I guess so. Yeah, because I'm cis and gay.
so that could also be one of those controversial, trendy topics. Just kind of sits there, and no one really knows what to do with it.
Hot
yeah,
potato, hot potato, the cis person.
yeah, pretty much. Gender nonconforming are also known as GNC, not to be confused with the supplement dietary company. I know, I just had to say it. Not non-binary, gender queer, gender fluid, gender neutral, and then the one that you like to call, what was it? Fab and Mab?
Fab
Mab and
and
Fab?
map,
Fab and Mab. Um,
which those
not
are a
as
bit
in like
controversial as well, but
not as in like a map you're carrying. It's B as in boy. It's MAAB, FAAB, and UAAB. I'm not gonna lie. When I saw this, I thought, oh, these are Air Force terms.
oh my god.
That's what they look like. But it stands for male assist or male assigned at birth, female assigned at birth, and unassigned at birth. So, and believe it or not, unassigned at birth does happen more often than you think.
Mm-hmm.
So it just, and then it could also cover additional topics or additional labels that may be created, because who knows where we will be in another year. I'm not saying I'm tired of it, but I am kind of tired of it. There's just so many labels. So there's
Well,
that.
the nice thing about that is that you personally don't have to worry about trying to figure out what they all are because you already know your own identity.
Who decides though? Then that's the question.
Yourself.
Is there like,
It's up to you.
well, no, but like in the community, is there like a president of the LGBT
Oh my
community as a whole
god.
that has its own community and decides, all right, here's the new word for this year for what this means for this person,
The
and then they
president
just
of the
add it to the
LGBT
plus.
community is Hosier.
I don't know who that is.
He's in charge of the lesbians.
Oh,
This is just a joke.
no.
He's a singer.
Oh, okay. So yeah, there you go. There's my little rant about that. But that's what those symbols mean. Or not symbols, I guess you could call them symbols.
Labels.
Okay, yeah, that's what those labels mean. You can Google them if you want to. They go into more details. There's history behind each one of them. And then you can kind of just educate yourself a little bit more if you really feel like it. It just depends on how you perceive it. But I want to go into recent news.
Mm-hmm.
So recently, I don't know how much of anyone really pays attention to the news. I'm assuming most people these days, given what's going on. On June 15th, 2020, something historically happened. And something like this hasn't really happened for a while since when they legalized gay marriage. What I'm about to talk about is something that was only available in certain states in the United States, but it wasn't covered as a whole. So Utah was one of those, surprisingly. But what it was is the Supreme Court on the United States ruled that the protections provided by Title, I have no idea what this actually stands for, VII. Do you know what that is? I know the Roman numerals, but I don't know my numerals.
Oh, it's
Title VI of the Civil Rights
7.
Act of 7, thank you. Title 7 of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 are also extended to the LGBT. Now they don't include the other ones, but I'm just assuming that they're in
the
there.
plus is assumed, yeah.
Okay. So the LGBT plus individuals, thereby making it illegal for workplaces to discriminate against employees on the basis of sexuality or gender identity, which include but is not limited to non-conforming, genderqueer, gender fluid, gender neutral, and more. So
So
Oh,
basically,
you know what?
it's federal law now that you can't be fired from your job for your sexuality or your gender identity.
It actually doesn't include that last set I just said. That is that's part of the notes that we couldn't find.
Oh my god, that's funny. I mean, it flowed well. Why not? Space
we
messed
should
up our
guys
notes.
we should guys we had notes in there, and then we moved them around, and we couldn't find the last part of the plus, which is why I had to pull out the article again. And I just realized what I was reading. It's too I mean, like, this is too informative for like the law to even have.
God.
So yes, it makes it illegal for us to be fired, which is really nice.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Now that's not gonna that doesn't say that discrimination won't continue to happen in your workplace. Like, not to be a burst your bubble type, but if they fire you, they can still fire you, but now you have the basis to sue. So it's still not good to work at a workplace where you're going to be discriminated against. But this is a huge step forward.
is a huge step forward. There is something else that I do want to bring to attention. I don't know what the actual I don't know what the actual term of it is or what the title is. So if you know it, please feel free to go ahead and give us an email. There is something that is highly controversial depending on what state you live in that comes, well, it's about violence against gays and the LGBTQ community. For instance, if you're in the car and for whatever reason the person that might be sitting next to you feels threatened or provoked because you're gay and they attack you, in certain states, in the court of law, they can use that as an actual defense and not be charged, which is insane because when has it ever been okay to attack someone for either being gay, straight, lesbian, bisexual? It's I can't even think of the words for it.
It's
Like, just imagine,
infuriating because
what if you were what if you were attacked? What if you were almost murdered? The evidence is there, but their defense is so strong because it's that law that protects the straight people. We're pretty much just defenseless. And this is not the case in all states, but there are some states that do have these laws in protection, and there are some states that are saying no, this law is totally unconstitutional and have been thrown out. But it's important for you guys to know this. So if you live in a state, you're not quite sure what it is, look it up. If
yeah.
it's not there, find a group that maybe helps move that further into the system to make it so that it is something that can not be used against gays, lesbians, trans, whoever. Because that would be also another historical movement or like thing to happen, because then that would be another protection that we would have in the United States, even though it should already be a protection as a basic human being.
I remember when that came out and I was like, that's absolutely insane because since when has it been popular for gay people to attack anybody? Like, if anything, it should be like, if you're going to have that logic, it should be legal for women to attack men at random because it's such a high percentage for them to get harassed, attacked, and what have you on the street. Like, that has more backing than anything, and even that's ludicrous. So, like, what the heck was that law? Who tried to pass that? I'm gonna go punch him in the nose.
And the reason I came up, like how I came across this, is I'm an avid listener to Crime Junkies. I love listening to like cold cases and new cases and all these fun types. Well, it's fun to listen to. I don't know if it's really fun in general, but I like listening to this. And I actually came across one that was specifically for Pride Month, and it was titled "Murdered: Matthew, Daniel, and Islan." And they talk about these cases where one case, this person did get justice even though they died, but then in another case, they didn't get the justice because the actual person who murdered them got off free because they felt threatened. And so it's a really good episode to listen to. I do want to let you know it's not for the what's the phrase?
Faint of heart.
Thank you. It's not for the faint of heart. I had a hard time listening to it. I only listened to about a third of it, and at that point I had to stop because I was crying at work and I felt so disturbed. It's good to listen to it's good to know that it hurts you. But if you don't take in that type of content very well, just don't listen to it. It's hard. It's so frustrating and but it's passionate at the same time. And these two ladies really bring it to attention and they really do want to fight for it. So it's good information, but be aware that it is quite graphic at the same
Yeah.
time. So I think I messaged you. I was so upset
You
after listening
were.
to it. I was pissed. So I get really passionate, as you guys know. But that's it so far as like news goes. Um, let's talk about Pride as it started.
Like for this year?
No, just in general. Like how did the month of Pride start?
Oh, well, that connects to the history we talked to earlier with the Stonewall riots. So, Pride Month started with the Stonewall riots in 1969. That's the right date, right? Yes. So, in 1969, that was technically the first Pride Month. And every year it kind of evolved from being riots happening and for people fighting and scraping for their lives and for their rights, gradually as time goes on and those fights continue to win more and more, you start to get more and more rights. Fast forward to 2020, the riots have slowly turned into parades. They've turned from forces of anger and frustration that are justified, into being moments of celebration, and celebrating those who fought so hard for us to be where we are today.
Which I just want to say I've never supported the parades, and that may sound weird, but think about it. Okay, would you want to take your child to a parade where men and women are flaunting their junk on a parade float in front of you? How does that represent our culture?
And see that, I guess it just depends on what your pride is like, because in Pride where I am, it's PG-13. Like, it's there isn't really a lot of like inappropriate flaunting or anything.
Surprisingly, in Utah, there's like flaunting, there's a lot of like kinks and fetishes, and that's great. Let's celebrate it. But let's also be aware that as a community in general, where we're trying to find equality within the regular community, and I hate to say regular, but that's kind of how it feels. Shouldn't we be trying to represent ourselves in the best way possible, not in the what we find to be the most fun way possible? Because the best way possible is also, I know it's boring, the most responsible way to do it. It's the better way of getting, oh God, I hate saying it, but like um, approval from the community. And it's easier for us to get into that community a lot better, to integrate. But the way that we do it, I'm not saying everyone does, but the way that these like parades happen and these floats, I just feel like it's another reason for the local community to say, we should not be introducing our children to that. And I kind of agree. Like on some certain stances, I wouldn't want to if that's how they act.
That's always a subject of controversy every Pride Month. And I'm kind of like, I have both sides of it. Like, I know kink is an important part of the LGBT community, but I also know that I understand why, um, Pride needs to be a safe space for all ages, because there are gay children and they need to feel like they're welcome at these events too. So I'm always like in the middle, where I'm like, I think Pride should have a safe space for all ages, but I also think it's okay during the late night hours of Pride events, like like similar to conventions, past 11 o'clock p.m. That's when all the after dark panels come out and stuff. So I think that is fine, but I think during the day, I think the general public, like, keeping your kinks to yourself until that time is appropriate, I think is the best bet, because there are gay children that feel closeted or feel like they aren't welcome at pride parades, even if they have supporting families, because it can be a sexual space depending on how your state or how your community handles pride parades. So I'm in both. I think kink is important to the gay community, but I also think
It
the gay
is.
community should be open for all ages, because sexuality isn't just about sex.
Well, I mean, if you think about it too, like I just don't like how people use it as an excuse to go ahead and flaunt your kinks out in public. Let's think about other societies. Other societies and straight people don't flaunt their kinks out in public like we do. We almost give them a reason to like make it so that kink should be hidden in the bedroom at that point. It's like reinforcing
Oh my
why
god.
they do it behind closed doors. So, but yeah, I'm on the fence. I think both should be there, but I think both should have their windows of opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I kind of have decided to think about like this year in general, pride isn't just about you. It's about the future. It's about the future of the community. So don't be selfish. Think about others as well.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, moving on, while pride is very much like a thing for us, right now, the biggest thing that's happening is the Black Lives Matter movement. And it's not just African Americans that are involved this time, it's pretty much all races that are involved this time. Um, and it's thanks to Bean. I was actually talking to Bean. I'm like, I'm going to mention this, but I'm going to mention it now. Bean challenges me on so many things of my way of thinking or the way I tweet like on our accounts. But she does it because she's passionate and she loves me, right? Like
I
you do
love
it
you very
because
much.
and she's not saying that because I told her to say it because I didn't. It's because I'm still kind of stuck on certain things back in the past, and sometimes I think of like I thought of all lives matter, like because I think all lives do matter, but I wasn't aware that that particular phrase was actually tied to something much worse than what I thought it was, and so I kind of like fought with her about it, but then at the end I realized that it's not a good thing to use, so I retweeted with a better way of saying it. I think I just put Black Lives Matter in general. But um Bane helps me understand cultural things a lot better than I used to. So I thank her for that. But I think it's because of Bane that I'm more like fired up about the Black Lives Matter movement. Because you went and protested.
Yeah, I do protests.
And can you explain to like the viewers who maybe don't protest or maybe want to but don't know what to expect, what is it like?
It really does depend on your area. So I live, well, I lived in Atlanta and I had to move back because COVID stuff. I moved back in with my family for the most part, but I'm moving back closer to the city in a couple months. But where I protested was in a smaller town, and the chief of police, even though you're protesting against the police, when you protest, you still have to get a permit. So you still have to involve yourself and get permission from the police, which is extremely ironic. But the chief of police, where I protested, he's a black man, and he came and he was standing there and he let everybody speak before the marches started, and then he backed off and he called his troops back. They backed off, and so it was a nice peaceful protest. We started at a performing arts center and marched into the town square, and then the town square was probably a 15-minute walk to it. So they had blocked off some roads just to let us cross, and then so people were helping us get through. Cars were honking in solidarity. People were holding their fists out the window in solidarity as we were marching. We were doing chants. It was very you know
Passionate.
passionate. And then when we got to the square, we had an I think 8 to 9 minute long moment of silence for George Floyd, because that's how long he was being kneeled on by the police officer. So we had that amount of time of a moment of silence so people could feel just how long that was. And then after the moment of silence was over, we had set up a little area where people could speak into a megaphone, just anything they wanted. Anything they wanted to say, anything they wanted to advocate, just as long as it was not hate speech. People, you could go up there, get in line, and have 3 to 5 minutes of time to speak. So there were some people who were in the middle of the square listening to speakers, and then there was a second group of people lining the square facing towards the roads, protesting, like with signs doing the chants when cars were driving by. So it was it felt it was a very emotional event. Most of them are, but this particular one was very peaceful. We had support from our local community. We only had one guy try to cause issues, but the police escorted him away. Other than that, we didn't have anybody try to attack us or intimidate us, other than that one dude. But he was quickly taken care of. Um, but if you go into the bigger cities like of Atlanta, for example, those can start to become from protesting more into rioting, which I know Space and I both have our own differing opinions on protest versus riots. I think riots can be necessary, but I personally cannot partake in rioting because I'm a type 1 diabetic and I am also legally blind. If my glasses get I am not physically suited for that. I would not be helpful at all. I would be dead weight. So I don't go into the big city protests
Forget
for that
this chick.
reason. Yeah, like,
just toss you to the side
to run. Like I would understand why. Like, but I would be meat. Okay, the police would raw me with those bullets, like with those rubber bullets. Like I would be dead. So. Like, that's just and I also need to like stay. I'm going to be a teacher in a year, and if I get in any trouble with the law, whether it's just or unjust, people get arrested at random all the time during protests for exercising their basic human rights of protesting. So they're unlawfully being arrested. If I get arrested even for doing something as legal as free speech, I could get my teaching license taken away. And I need that job to care for myself and for my family. So I personally just cannot go to riots. But I do go to protests, and I have been to a few. So it just depends. You have to research, talk to the people who are organizing the protests. A lot of the time they are very seasoned protesters, and you can get information from them. You can also just feel it out while you're there. Go early, go when they start. Usually when the protests start, they start peaceful and then they start to escalate as the day goes on, if it escalates at all. A lot of the times they won't. The news likes to cover riots more than protests. There are far more protests than there are riots. So find some comfort in that. I don't just yet again, I don't disagree about riots. I think riots can be, necessary and crucial, and that's my opinion. I am in support of riots, but I personally cannot do them because of my own physical health and because of my career choice. I could get in a lot of trouble personally. So, but I do appreciate and support everybody who is able to go out there and go hard. So, thank you. I appreciate you, and I hope you stay safe.
Now, as far as like the riots part go, like you said, you and I have our different points of view on it. I'm okay with the riot in general. I understand where being comes from. Like, it's property damage, no big deal. But then, like, I hate to say, I'm sorry, I play devil's advocate all the time. But like, what if you were that? Oh, well, you were saying there's a rioting code, isn't there?
Your main concern was small businesses getting looted.
Yeah, because I'm like, what about those mom and pop shops? That like put everything they can into it. They don't really have the greatest insurance because they can't really afford the best kind. And then they get looted. And it's like, how is that justice for what you're fighting for?
Yeah.
But then you brought it to attention. There's something I didn't know.
A lot of the times when folks are rioting, they avoid mom and pop shops or small businesses in general. It's just not good form. It's not good manners from the rioters' handbook to, damage or loot from small businesses. You'll see, like in Atlanta, a Wendy's was caught on fire. A white person caught it on fire. Fun fact, not a black protester. And a lot of the times, this is an issue. You see a lot of the looting and property damage is done by folks using it to their advantage. They're not there to try and speak out against the injustices of black people. They're there to cause trouble just because they're taking advantage of it. But I have seen a lot of videos of it's a lot of white people just getting rowdy and catching buildings on fire for no reason. That's what happened in Atlanta anyway. But elsewhere, there have been protesters who will try to stop looters or stop property damage. But at the end of the day, once the riots are over, the community does come back and clean up.
something interesting too that you pointed out, and I really didn't even think about it until you said something, and then it had like my gears thinking, and now every time I hear about riots, I think, was someone set up?
Oh yeah,
Because you
the
said there
police
were.
officers. There were a lot of undercover cops who were starting riots and agitating protesters and causing fires themselves.
Or leaving out bricks or leaving out
Yeah, police
things.
officers leaving out bricks intentionally, like just basically
They're
trying to
trying to
feed the
instigate
fire.
it,
Hmm.
trying to get you to like do it so then they have a reason to arrest you. And I've always been like, not every police officer out there is awful, but like the more that all of these events keep unfolding, the more my views start to change a little bit. There is a problem in the system. We already know this, but how do we fix it? I don't know. That's not my place to try to figure out how all that legalities work, but like parts of me have started to change. I think in the good, because I was so like set in my ways of like, well, this is how I see it. But the more I get more information in, the more I start to realize what's really going on.
And education really is the key here. Not
It
only
is.
educating yourselves through news outlets and things like that, like, 'cause a lot of the times mainstream media news you can't trust because they're covering what they think is spicy, right? So going out there and learning with your own 2 feet, like go out and protest, talk to the people you're protesting with, hear those speeches from folks, talk to people on social media, listen to Black voices. They are the ones who need to be heard right now, and educating yourself just through that can be a life changer. Honestly, it really can. And we were talking about, we just jumped right into Black Lives Matter movement and everything like that, um, and all these riots and protests going on, and this all connects into Pride because Black trans women were one of the key players in starting the Stonewall riots. So by default, Pride Month was basically opened up by Black trans women.
Which is pretty powerful.
It
You think
is.
about it. That's a really powerful thing because a lot of things like if you go to a pride event, it's primarily just white people and then just people mixed into there. So you think, oh, it's probably something that we started, but you're wrong. It starts from the very beginning where you least think it actually started. So,
And it's the it a lot of okay, let's take the furry fandom for example. Most of the furry fandom is gay, as part of the LGBT community, I should say.
yeah,
But most furries are cis white gay men. And that's not inherently bad. It just means that the perspective of the fandom can be skewed because,
it's
you know,
primarily a white fandom,
is yeah, if you're white, you don't have the same life experiences as a Black person. And even if you are, on the side of Black Lives Matter as a white person, you still will never truly understand what Black people are going through, and that's just the natural case. You're white, and you will never truly experience what a Black person experiences in America, but you can understand it to, you know from the
to an
educational
extent.
point of view, right? So it could be that way in the LGBT community as well. So Black trans people started Pride Month. They started Stonewall riots, and a big name in that is Marsha P. Johnson. She threw the first blow to cops during the riots in the gay bars. It's always said, like, was it a brick? Was it a shot glass? We don't know, but she threw something and she threw it hard.
Damn. And I'm so glad she did. I mean, because
Oh gosh.
someone needs to do it.
Yeah. And a majority of people in the Stonewall riots were, Black trans women and Black gay men. In New York at the time, they're just when you think demographics in general, New York has a pretty vast demographic when it comes to racial populations. I mean, think of the Harlem Renaissance, for example. There's a lot of a lot of African American, a lot of Black art and music, and it's safe to say that when it comes to finding a community in a gay bar, uh, having people of, similar race around helps you feel that comfort. I can imagine. Just have that sense of community and that safety. That's why gay bars exist. It is supposed to feel like a safe space. So having that community of gay queer people in that area during those riots, it explains why they had such a big hand in Pride Month.
I I still don't understand why there's why there's racism against African Americans. I don't get it. Because the way I've always seen it, we both bleed the same color. So why does it matter?
It has its roots in history. America's history lies in racism, and America is still a baby nation. Like, if you think about it, it's not that old.
Before we go a little bit further into more of the history of Pride and Black Lives Matter and stuff, I do want to just vent my frustration of the police, not specific people, but just police as a whole, and the way humans just in general have been treated. It's true. The media will portray what's the most negative because that's the most watched thing. People just love watching horrible stuff. Let's admit that. They never really feature other aspects of, like you said, protests. There could be hundreds of protests that go on, but you only hear about the riots. That's because that's all people want to hear about. But it's within these riots, it's really frustrating because I keep seeing more videos come up of police pushing over senior citizens. Okay, well, we don't know from that point of view what's really going on, but I can tell you right now, you don't push someone over and you don't push an old person over, let alone push them to the ground to where they're hurt. That's just messed up. That's probably the most, I don't like saying the F word as much, but that's probably the most fucked up thing ever. You just don't hurt another human being. I don't, like, I know why people do it, but I am all about, like, not hurting others, okay? Like, I would literally take a bullet for you, Bean. I would take a bullet for really anyone because I think life is worth protecting. Of course, there are things that could play into that, but overall, I think life is worth protecting and life is not worth hurting. I've been beaten up. I've been jumped. I don't like being hurt. No one does. So to see things like this going on in like riots, like in videos, upsets me at the core because basic human rights are being violated, not because people are protesting and like like destroying a business, but because the police know better. They know these de-escalation tactics and they don't even follow those basic rules and violate the basic human right of hurting someone else. I don't get that.
And police officers aren't gone through a lot of training for de-escalation, unfortunately. Most of their training is in defense and offense and not in de-escalation. And it's crazy how a barber in America has to be in school for longer than a police officer. Like, you legally can't touch somebody else's hair unless you've been in school for a year plus, but you could be a police officer in 6 months. It's absolutely ludicrous how little training police officers go through. And in the de-escalation issue, it's like even if you aren't trained in de-escalation, if you get hit with, if you're a police officer and you're in riot gear, you're armed to the teeth, you're in anti-bullet vests, you have shields, you have helmets, you have guns, you have batons, you have everything, but you become a little baby when somebody throws a water bottle at you and you start shooting rubber bullets because a water bottle hits you. That's not a threat. I don't care how many people are throwing water bottles at you. That's not going to kill you, and there's no excuse. If your feelings get hurt and because somebody threw a water bottle at you or because somebody's yelling in your face, like, that's not enough of a threat for you to start a whole riot, because the cops are the ones who usually start riots. They're the ones who usually break the peace when it comes to the major threat of hurting people. All right. Some people might get a little bit rowdy and might start cussing and spitting, but they're frustrated. They've gone through years and years and years of abuse through the system. They're going to be frustrated. But you, as an officer, have to be trained and have to know when to, hold back and when to show your composure as a real officer.
And not appropriate.
You want to be a real officer? You want to be a big, strong man? Show some composure. and stop getting so offended, like a little snowflake. How ironic, because people are offending you.
And what I don't get too is this is like, I know officers are trained in this, but I don't know why officers think that they're trained to be like an agent, like a secret agent, to shoot to kill. You're not 007. Your job is to shoot to disarm, not shoot to kill. If someone's running away from you, you don't shoot them in the back, shoot them in the leg. That doesn't kill them. That just stops them. If they're holding a gun, shoot them in the arm. You know that you can hit that. You've been trained for that. Why aren't you following your basic training?
Yeah.
Yet you kill people. Like, it just not, and I'm like, okay, not all officers are bad, but I'm so frustrated that they know these things and they're killing people.
It's the statement, non-officers are bad. That's inherently true. Not all officers are bad, but the system is bad. And officers being a part of the system, you might become an officer because you want to try to fix the system, but you really have to work hard for that. You really have to voice that. And I think there is an effect going on in the police departments, because there's a lot of turnover right now. I've seen a lot of people turning in their badges because they don't want to hurt the people they want to protect. And those are the kinds of officers that need to be more out there. But turning in your badge and demanding a better system, and and not providing your state that military force, I get it. Like, I get why people say ACAB, but I also understand that we need a new police force, because it's just, there's a lot in it, and I have to be more educated in that. But the system is so messed up, and the training that is so lacking in these forces, it keeps supporting this racist system that is just happening.
And I don't know why cops are surprised when black people run. How are you surprised? That's what they fear. A lot of them fear that when police show up, they're in trouble. Not for any reason whatsoever, but that's just kind of what rives through them. So don't be shocked if they run. God.
Yeah, people they're not running from the police because they did something wrong. They're running because they get shot for no reason. So you have a better chance surviving if you run, even if you didn't do anything wrong.
I saw, oh God. And I like to read the news, and I keep just seeing more and more frustrating, like, articles come up. I saw one where, like, a black dad came home and his kid was playing in the front yard and he was watching him. But as soon as his kid saw a cop car pull up, his kid ran inside.
Yeah.
Why? That should not be a fear in a child. A child is supposed to feel like untouchable, because that's how they are. Kids should just feel that. Kids should not feel fear in something that's there to protect, not to do something else.
And
I'm just so upset.
Unfortunately, black families do have to teach their children to try and avoid the police, because they're not there to help when most of the time.
They call it the talk, which is really interesting, because we call it the talk when we talk about sex and protecting yourself. But they have their own version called the talk. And every time I hear that come up, a piece of me dies inside, and then I kind of start to cry, because it's like, this shouldn't have to happen, but unfortunately it's happening.
Yeah.
I'm just angered by it, and I'm angered by I messaged Bean, I don't know if it was yesterday or the day before, but I saw that Trump basically said that Black Lives Matter is a symbol of hate. And at that moment, I really just wanted to drive my hand through the computer and hope that it makes it to Trump, because it's like, we understand you're a stupid man and you're very dumb, and you just, like, whatever is going on in your brain just doesn't calculate. But something that's trying to do something good, that obviously is doing something good, and you don't like it, you call it a symbol of hate. I don't feel like I deserve to live in this country anymore.
God. Like, all lives can't matter until Black lives matter.
Yeah, that should be the ultimatum, Rick, right there. So
and this is why it's so important for the gay community to support their black members. Like,
yes.
If you think being gay is hard, imagine being gay and black. If you think being trans is hard, imagine how hard it is being trans and black. Like, so The life expectancy of a Black trans person is 35 to 37 years old. If you look at the life expectancies of queer people in general, the life gets younger and younger the darker the skin gets. The threats are doubled. The way you have to deal with those struggles along with the racial injustices that exist in America, it's upsetting. And if Pride was started through the hands and the voices and the actions of Black people, then it's the least the queer community could do but to stand with them while they're needing to speak during these difficult times right now and for always.
I mentioned to Bean before we started that I was really shocked, but also like I feel empowered and so good that people are doing this. But I was so shocked to see that in these protests, there were, I started trying not to like cry, but there were people, not Black, standing in front of people who were Black, protecting them from police officers holding their gunpoint at them. Like, I've never seen that. Two things I've never witnessed in my lifetime: a pandemic of COVID-19, and two, protests so passionate that people are really wanting to be involved and going in there and putting their own lives on the line to protect someone they don't even know. I don't really know how much more passionate that can be. I think that's amazing.
It's absolutely amazing. And if you are a white person and you're going to protests, you're always needed in the front, because if things do go sour, there is shown hesitation. There's proof of shown hesitation in police brutality trying to go through these protesters if whites are in the front. It helps. So if you can physically and mentally handle that threat, move to the front.
So yeah, stand with your fellow friends, regardless of race. But right now, Black Lives Matters is the movement, and it's what we need to fight for. Because as you said, it started off because of the community. It should only be right that we stand with them and protect them, because they're the reasons why we have a community at all, really, and a month to celebrate. So we should naturally want to protect and also stand with them as well. So
we will be having one of the next episodes we will be releasing. It'll be a visual show on our YouTube channel. A link will be provided in the description of this episode, but we are going to be boosting Black furry artists. Whether you do artwork, you make fursuits, you do literature, music, anything like that, feel free to share your portfolio, share your work. We not only want to, hear the Black voices politically right now, but we all know that it's good to take a breather, take a breath. And, in a community that's full of so much talent, so many artists, we want to see the Black members of our community who so often get covered up by the dense white population of the furry community. So if you are an artist of color, if you are a Black furry artist, feel free to check that link in our description and share your work. And we will be doing a visual show. It might have 2 parts depending on how many people we get sharing. But we do want to see your work. We want to hear your voice. So feel free to go ahead and do that. And it'll be all about, that part of our community. So go ahead and check that out. We want to see your work.
Before we go, though, we do have a quote to go with.
Pride Month didn't get taken away from us. It just went back to its roots.
And that is so true. We thank you guys for listening. If you have any questions or you'd like to reach out to us, you can at talktothemuzzle@gmail.com. We also have a voice messaging service. Do you want to talk about that real quick?
Yeah, sure. We have a new voice messaging opportunity for everybody. It is called SpeakPipe, and it is do you know the link? We'll have it in the description for you. So there's a link to our SpeakPipe where you can go and click, and through any smart device you can leave up to a 1 minute basically like a voicemail for us. And in the future, we're wanting to listen to 1 or 2 voicemails in the beginning of each episode, just so we can connect with y'all on an even deeper level than we already do. And it's just a fun, quick way for y'all to just say whatever's on your mind. Say hello, give us a quick shout out. We'll give you a quick shout out. And it's just a fun little thing. So feel free to go ahead and try that out.
But until next time, you guys have a wonderful day.
And remember that Black Lives Matter.